It's another O-line meeting. We got our guy Big Ray Roberts in studio for Wyman today. So we got two like-minded folks out here who understand the nuances, the subtleties of offensive line play, and we need it for this conversation. So this is perfect. I want to do Mark, get your take on this soundbite. We were talking about the Seahawks O-line, which was problematic all year for different injuries, lack of experience, what have you, just not a good situation. And their right tackle, Abe Lucas, is a guy who, when healthy, looks like your answer, but he's just had a hard time staying healthy. And Jordan Reed, who's the draft analyst for ESPN, talked about the idea of Abe Lucas is eventually going to get moved to guard. I wanted to play this for you and get your reaction to it.
I just think the physicality that he plays with, which is something that I always love to see in those guards. And then also there's just something about what I like to call having those bumpers on each shoulder, just so you have that security with the center and then also the tackle. But as a tackle, you're always out on the island at that right tackle spot over your right shoulder. So it is a little bit different when you have those bumpers over each shoulder at guard, and you can protect them a little bit more in those protections as opposed to being on an island at offensive tackle.
And I think you've touched on this before, Mark, and I know obviously Ray did earlier, but is it just that easy to go, all right, well, we're just going to have you play guard now. You're a tackle, but now you're a guard.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Mekhi Becton. He was drafted by the Jets, couldn't stay healthy. He was too big. They've had him at tackle, moved into guard, and he's been awesome for the Philadelphia Eagles. Couldn't play for the Jets, awesome for the Eagles. I had this story years ago. I don't know if you guys remember Leonard Davis. But Leonard Davis is like a 6'8", 365-pound offensive tackle out of Texas that got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals in the first round, and he was awful. Like, he was just horrible at the tackle position. And I remember being very critical of him over the course of his time. And I'm at a Super Bowl party. I'm an analyst at the time. I'm working for ESPN at the time. And here he comes across the room, and I'm like, oh. Like, he's walking right at the line, 6'8", 360. And at this point, I'm on the treadmill every day for an hour and a half. I'm about 225 pounds. And I'm like, I literally thought this to myself. I go, I'm going to get my ass kicked, right? I'm getting my ass kicked right now. And so he comes beelining straight for me. I could just see it. And to his credit, man, Leonard Davis goes, all right, what do I got to do? And he was a free agent at the time. And I said, Leonard, you are too big, and this is no offense, you're too slow-footed to play tackle. But I go, if you move into guard, you could be a Pro Bowl guard. And I go, what you have to tell people that are looking at you in free agency is I'm moving to guard, and I'm not going to play any other position. He goes to Dallas to play guard, and he's like 4 Pro Bowls, All-Pro, 4 years in a row. And ultimately, I saw him like a year later. I was doing a camp tour for ESPN, and he's like, "Hey, man, thanks." And it was just really cool. So sometimes that can be very helpful. And I will tell you, just from my own perspective, like like you play guard, you play in a phone booth, right? You've got protection on each side. There's less room for defensive guys to maneuver. And frankly, for me, and this is just true for me, I don't think I could have played tackle in this league. It just is, to me, it's a harder position to play. So sometimes it does help. Now, injury-wise, I don't think it's going to help. Like, there's a lot of physical stuff going. Like, we used to say, hey, man, you tackles play outside in the water. Us guards and centers play in the concrete. Like, there's a difference there. But I don't know that it will help injury-wise. But Abe Lucas is a really damn good player when healthy. He's a big physical guy. Obviously, the big issue is he's not been able to stay healthy, and that's the biggest concern.
Yeah, Mark, I've always felt like when an analyst like that just kind of make the general comment of moving the positions around, that you just don't take into account all the little nuances that you just talked about. And so, like, moving from tackle to guard, guard to center, center to tackle, like, it's not just 5 interchangeable pieces, because the nuances can trip you up, and you may think like, oh yeah, this guy can fit here and there, and it's the nuances that kind of can sometimes get them, even though there has been exceptions to the rule. But what I wanted to ask you, though, is that we were just talking about this earlier, is that this kind of move back towards the physicality of the game that includes the running game. For a long time, obviously it's still a quarterback league. It felt like it was 7-on-7, and guys were asked to drop back and pass protect all the time. Why do you think there's been like this move back towards running the football and being really physical between the tackles that way?
Yeah, because physicality wins. Like, you can make up for a lack of quarterback play if you just physically dominate the line of scrimmage. If you run the ball, it creates opportunities in the passing game. It creates when you can run the football and you can tie your passing game into that structure. It just makes things easy. It makes reads easy for the quarterback. It makes getting open easier for the receivers and the tight ends. It just everything flows off of that. And there is no being physical doesn't go in and out of style, right? It's not one of those things like if you can do those things, if you can win the line of scrimmage on a consistent basis, show me the team that wins the line of scrimmage. I'll show you a team that wins the games. And so for me, that's like the biggest thing that I think is the biggest predictor of winning more than anything else. Now, obviously, if you have Patrick Mahomes, there's probably a different story there. But the bottom line is you can make up for a multitude of sins if you actually can play with a physical style of football. And so that's where it comes in. And then, like I said, ultimately the biggest thing is how it ties the run game and the pass game in. So it's not just play pass stuff, but it's the run action, play action, all the boot keep stuff, the waggles out the front side. When you can operate those things, they're easy completions for your quarterback. You run the ball, and I always think about it this way. If you really run the ball well, all right, so then you tie that into your passing game. So you have the run action, play action, and you can do, the boot keep stuff, all the stuff that comes off of that. At the end of the day, right there, off just your run action, play action, your quarterback's going to be 12 for 12 in the passing game, just off of that stuff. And then if you can just complete 50% of your other passes, like you've had an unbelievable day, and you've got all kinds of yardage in the passing game. So I just like running the football and being physical wins offensive football games, and it takes pressure off your defense because they don't have to play as much. It's just smart football that we've gotten away from it because it doesn't get offensive coordinators promoted to head coaches. And I've said this to you guys 100 times before. Like, you show me an offensive coordinator that gets big production out of this passing game with a young quarterback, that is like Viagra to 80-year-old owners. They cannot get enough of it. They cannot stop. And owners are stupid enough to believe that that's good. Like that is something that they can just replicate, and they can duplicate that stuff. You can't. You just can't.
So Mark, like what? There was a time there then where it just seemed like even the offensive line development was kind of fading or slipping or wasn't where it used to be as it relates to being physical that way and run blocking. What do you account that to?
Well, I think a lot of it was I would put that on the way we have operated as a league, and so. I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the money goes to 20% of the players, and the rest of the 20% of the money is divvied up between the 80% of the players who are chasing after it. And so ultimately, where do you save money? Well, you're going to pay your outstanding. Your big time corner is going to get paid big money. Your big time wide receiver is going to make $30 million. Your quarterback's going to make $50 million, right? So you look at these. Your edge rusher is going to make $40 million or whatever he makes. And so those guys, your big star defensive tackle, your left tackle is going to make a big chunk of that money. So at the end of the day, where do you save money? Well, instead of getting veteran guys, like when I came in the league, every guy I played with, I played for, the Hogs and the Washington Redskins. And so every one of our backups had started for 4 years or 5 years somewhere else. And that was our backup offensive line. Well, now what do? Well, you get some rookie that probably shouldn't be in the league, that isn't developed, that doesn't know how to play, and you pay that dude minimum rookie wage. It's not even $1 million or whatever it is, and you're saving money there. Well, as soon as one of your starters gets hurt, you're screwed. Those guys can't play, and they don't understand the nuance of the game. Roger Goodell stopped me. This is 2 years ago. He's like, hey, we got so many quarterbacks getting injured. What are we going to do? I go, well, how are we going to fix it? And I go, well, until you start to value what we do up front and understand how difficult that is. And I've told you guys this before, it's the greatest skill in football.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're collectively the worst athletes on the football field, and we're asked to block guys that are better than us, and we're asked to win 100% of those battles all the time. And if we don't, we suck, and you go to the Pro Bowl. Like, it is to generate, like I used to get, and I get on a roll here. But I used to get so irritated with offensive line coaches. They'd be like, "Hey man, you got to stay low." Oh, hey, no kidding. You know why? Because I'm getting my ass impaled. Yeah, I understand. I got to stay low. Don't tell me I got to stay low. Okay, Sherlock. Oh wow, what a great investigative reporting job you just did. Yeah, I'm getting impaled. I get that I got to stay lower. How? How do you stay low? How do you create leverage? Because if I'm 6'3" or 6'4", and you're 6'3" or 6'4", and we're coming off the ball going mano a mano with one another, our helmets are going to hit. I'm not coming off 12 inches lower than you. That's ludicrous, right? It's absolutely insanity. So I have to be able to get foot over ankle over knee over hip, right? And my foot has to come down in a linear progression, which is a power-producing progression, right? And then as I hit my second step in my progression, my hands have to shoot from a low to high plane, right? And as that second step comes down, my hands should be in contact with you, and I've got to create the impetus of that force that takes you out and up through the top of the ceiling. And when I get your body going in that motion, because I've created that leverage, now all of a sudden I can take you off the ball and deposit you 3 or 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. And when I tie all that stuff together, and I'm an expert at doing that, I didn't just play professional football. I was a professional football player, like freaking football player. And I was a professional in the way I studied, the way I prepared, and the way I played the game. And that's what it takes. And what we've done is we've poo-pooed, or we have discredited the value. We are the most skilled athletes on the football field, bar none. And, I tell people all the time, man, we go out and play catch. I can throw you a ball. You could catch it and throw it back. If we did one-on-ones, I would whip your ass because I know what I'm doing.
That's been like a park ride or something.
Right?
Hey, Mark, just back to Abe Lucas for a moment and the idea of him moving to guard. I believe that conversation was based on, it'd be more beneficial because of the injury to his knee. We still don't even really know what it is, but it seems like it's sort of a condition that's going to be there and you're going to have to manage. Does playing guard take some pressure off that? Yeah, you're not going up against the athlete who's got the edge on you, and maybe you need to be more athletic and move more. But then, Dave pointed out, well, if you're on the inside, you're playing guard, you're going to have a bigger guy, a 325-pound guy pushing on you every play. Is that helping the knee at all? I mean, I just don't. Is that the answer to a guy who's being limited by his chronic condition in a knee?
Well, the only thing I would say is if you're kicking out and you're your right tackle and you're kicking out, if it's your right knee and you're using that knee as you're kind of funneling a guy outside, and you've got a plant at some point, and that's kind of your plant leg. Could it have an effect? Absolutely, but there are more bodies inside. There are more like people falling on your legs, and there's just more. There's more
traffic.
More bodies. More traffic inside. So, I don't know. I don't know the exact injury. I don't know what's going on with that particular guy, and why, he's having those issues. But the other thing is, like you said, some of the dudes that play, like Dexter Lawrence is 6'4", 365 inside, and, is like a road grader, so I just don't know how big a help moving inside was. Most of the time, moving inside is simply because, the edge players have such athleticism, and maybe you're a little bit slower footed than you need to be. Well, you can move in the guard and get away with being a little slower footed. I don't know that it really is going to help from an injury standpoint.